Whole new meaning on that song lyric, Black Hole Sun. Scientists at NASA have given us some amazing images, and they've discovered there's actually an enormous dark hole over our sun. Corey Powell's editor-at-large, Discover Magazine, here to look at these images. Nice to see you, Corey.
Yeah.
What is this?
Weather map on the sun. You'll notice part of the sun is missing. So this is a picture of the sun in ultraviolet rays. What you're seeing is this is 3.5 million degree plasma erupting from the surface of the sun. This part that's missing, the reason it's dark, is that whole chunk of the sun basically ripped off, blew out, and is coming our way at about 2 million miles an hour.
Our way.
Our way.
That doesn't sound good.
Well, I mean, this kind of thing happens all the time, but you don't very often see something that big. So I'm going to go all Carl Sagan on you here for a second. So this is about 80 times as wide as the Earth. If you're looking at the Earth on this scale, it's about that large. So this is an incredible chunk of the sun that's flying out. What happens when it hits our planet, it causes auroras, it wiggles the magnetic field. The thing you really worry about is it can disrupt your GPS, it can mess with your communication satellites, it can mess with your power lines.
Is that like a solar flare? Or?
So yeah, so these hot spots are where things are, it's where the things are really kind of intense and bubbling. This is where it's basically reached the point where it just kind of completely blew off. You're actually not seeing the hot gas here because it's no longer on the sun. It's coming into our face.
Did we ever know this before? Or did we not take note of it?
Well, we know it's really very recent that we've even been able to see these things, and so we kind of knew, you know, there's this constant low-level thing, you know, a few $1 million a year damages, more or less, just our solar satellites, power lines, things. We knew that the sun was messing with us, and we didn't exactly know why. Now you see why. And the real worry is, this is actually, believe it or not, this is a small one. This is a minor one.
Wow. Can you tell us what this means then?
So what this means is, this is what the sun does all the time, and we don't really know why it does it. There's an 11-year cycle of solar activity, and right now we're going into a time of peak activity. And that's when all those things I was talking about before, you know, we really need to watch for your power lines, your satellites, for all that.
But you just said something there. You said it happens all the time. If it happens all the time, is there a real risk to us? Well, or are we just noticing now?
Well, there's two parts. I mean, there's the stuff like this. Like I said, this is actually not even a particularly bad one. So this is what happens all the time that we weren't really noticing, that now we're starting to understand and forecast. But there are much more intense ones. There was a giant solar flare in 1962, right before we really had a whole lot of satellites, an even bigger one in 1859. Wow. And if something like that happened again, that could cause a global blackout.
You always talk about, you know, solar flares as the biggest danger on a large scale. So we will see. Corey, thank you. Excellent explanation.
Oh, well, thank you.
And we'll call you Carl Sagan next time, okay? Cool?
Yeah, millions and millions of Earths would fit in this picture.
Yeah, nice.
There
Man, did y'all just see that shit? King JB Uncensored, man. Half the fucking... Do you understand what the hell you just saw? Now listen, I'm real big on this Planet X. I always get into astronomy and look out there, and I'm real big and real interested on what the hell is going on out there, because I know that here on Earth we've had 5 mass extinctions. And that's the truth. I know all you Bible thumpers are going to say, no, we've only been around 4,000 years. Get the fuck out of here with that. You know, I don't mind people being religious or whatever, but when you sit here and say we've only been around 4,000 years, our Earth, you're out of your fucking mind. Anyways, we've had 5 mass extinctions. Asteroids has been hitting us for a long time. And one of the things we know is that our sun, being a star, it's eventually going to die. And a lot of people say about 5 million years away, 500 million years, shit like that. And whatever's whatever. But I'm a firm believer in the concept of Planet X or Nibiru. I believe there is a rogue planet, as reported in 1983, that comes into our solar system every once in a while. And when it comes into our solar system, I believe that what it does is it does bring a trail of comets with it and asteroids, and it fucks everything up. Now, without that being the case, one of the other issues is the sun and the solar flares. and shit like that. Now, I can go into science and break all this shit down for you, but all I'm going to do is say this is something that has always interested me. Solar flares, I know in the late 1800s it was a solar flare that hit us, and if that same size solar flare hit us today, it would shut down all electronics. It would shut down everything. I know what a lot of y'all are going to say, well, they said in 2000 it was going to be blah, 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 blah. You know, a lot of people like to say that none of these dangers exist because other predictions of other dangers didn't come true. But what they fail to understand is a lot of predictions of dangers has come true. Now, the bottom line of this is this: if you watch the video, we got half the sun, or a big chunk of sun, literally coming at us. And this shit happens all the time with solar flares, but this is a pretty large chunk. Do you understand that any energy that comes off the sun has the potential to do us a lot of fucking damage, especially now that our ozone layer and our shield around us is becoming so weak. There's a big hole in the ozone layer right now, and I mean giant hole. That's what protects us from these solar flares, keeps us from getting burnt to shit up. Do you understand that with this coming at us, literally, this could knock us into the dark for years? You know what that means? So much food is gone. Without electricity, a lot of you cats would die because a lot of you cats are so, thanks to the liberals, so stuck on having shit given to you. I don't think you could survive on your own. I don't think you guys could grow food. I don't think you guys could survive and hunt and all that shit. I think a lot of y'all would perish. And that's the truth. And I think here's the problem. A lot of us cats that look up into the sky and think about things like this, we're all called conspiracy theorists and fucking crazy. And that's fine. But at the same time, you need to realize that all of these mass extinctions in the past, they did happen. It is okay to be worried about the calderas, the supervolcanoes, at Yellowstone and all this shit. It is okay. You're not crazy if you're worried about it. Because the proof is in the pudding. The oceans are warmer. That's why we're getting more deadly hurricanes. Speaking of that, I'm a big hurricane fan. Not the football team, but I live in South Florida. I love hurricanes. It's one of the things that you don't know about me. I follow the weather shit all day long. All day long. Not on TV, on the computer, follow the models and all that shit. But anyway, back to the solar flare. A lot of us are so wrapped up in what we're doing daily, whether it's turning up, getting drunk, getting high, getting pussy, getting all that shit. We don't look into what's real. We don't look into real threats that we have. And I know why. A lot of people say, well, I can't do nothing about it. And that may be true. But you don't want this shit to just come as a surprise. Period. You don't want this shit to just come as a surprise. At all. And with this solar flare, you have to understand that if it shuts down all electricity, you got to learn how to live without it. This is why people prep. And I advise all of you to watch Doomsday Preppers. Pay attention to this shit. Prep. Save food, man. Realize electricity could be gone tomorrow. Anyway, man, this big-ass story, this solar flare, all this shit. And remember, there's rumors that Ed Snowden said that in September there's going to be a major solar flare. Now, I don't know how true that is. But the bottom line here is that if y'all don't start waking up and paying attention to this shit, you know what I'm saying, you're going to continue to just say people like me is crazy and you ain't going to know anything. Understand. Do your research on black holes, solar flares, you know what I'm saying, gamma ray bursts. Understand that these things are, first of all, they're interesting as shit. Second of all, they are important. And do your research on Planet X and Nibiru. You know what I'm saying? These things are important. And the truth is our government knows about this shit and they're hiding it from you. You know why? Because they're building underground bunkers. They're building all this shit, bases on the moon. Because what they're going to do is they're going to leave all of us here to die while they find a way to get away. Understand that. You don't have to believe it. At least research it. Open your eyes to the possibility of it existing. I'm scared as shit. I ain't gonna front. I sit here sometimes for hours on end watching about pole shifts and gamma ray bursts. Also, peep that shit out, the pole shift. Learn how our poles are shifting as we speak. The Mayans may not have been right about 12/21/12, but they're pretty fucking close. Seriously, man. Some of y'all need to really start looking into this shit and quit worrying about when Lil Wayne's album is gonna drop. Open your mind, get intelligent, get educated. All I got to say is rewind that shit. Look at that video again. That shit's on the mainstream news. Understand? If it's on the mainstream news now, you know what that means? This shit's been going on a long time because the mainstream news is always the last one to report some shit like this. Anyway, I done rambled on. I'm sorry. And I'll holler at y'all later, man. But, you know, this shit kind of interests me. And I want y'all to get interested. I want y'all to start thinking about things like this. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people have real issues. And they don't want to know about anything that may be the destruction of themselves. Sometimes I think we do need to know. Because if you know, maybe you'll take today to spend that extra hour with your kids, man. Understand this shit could happen anytime. I'm King JB. This is King JB Uncensored. Follow me at official King JB on Twitter. I'm out of here.